Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Willie, and this is the encouraging word for today. Jesus once said, "You cannot serve God and money. One of them will have your heart, and you'll love one of them and hate the other." So my question for today is it biblical to receive money, in other words, a salary, to do ministry? Is that a biblical thing? You can't serve God and money. Should ministry just be a non-professional type of profession, so to speak, if you understand what I mean? Ministry in many cases has become professional. There are schools, there are people, they're looked up to as one of the professions in our Western society. But there are two problems that come up when money and ministry are mixed together. Two problems. Number one is that money and ministry mixed turns people off from church. Let me tell you what I mean. People hear of pastors who receive huge amounts of money for being a pastor, or they see news stories of celebrities who have celebrity pastors who have expensive clothes, expensive hairdos. This hairdo is not expensive, by the way. My wife does it for free for about the past 40 years. Big houses, jets, and it's all about the dollar bill. And people see that and they say, nah, money ministry doesn't mix. It's all about money. It's a scam to get my money. And people are turned off to the gospel of Jesus Christ. The second problem is the opposite. Thinking of ministry for money helps you start to think that, well, that's a professional's job. You attend a church, but it's the pastor's job to do ministry. It's the priest's job to do ministry, especially if you grew up in certain very traditional types of churches where a person wears a collar, they wear special types of clothing. They're in the front, you're sitting down there. The idea I had when I was growing up, that's their job. My job is just to show up for an hour on Sunday and I'm done. I'm out of here. And so thinking of money for ministry creates this division between those who receive a salary and those who don't. And a perception on the part of those who don't get paid that we're paying them to do the ministry. Let them do it. It's not my job. Big problems with money and ministry. And Jesus, as always, is right. Money can get a hold of your heart. So it is a problem. However, both ways of looking at it are wrong. And Paul gives us an example. Paul gives us a perfect example. We've seen yesterday that Paul was working as a tent maker. In other words, he had a job making tents, selling tents, and he was doing ministry at the same time. His job making tents was supporting him in ministry. And then listen to what happens in Acts chapter 18, verse 5. It says, "When Silas and Timothy came from Macedonia, Paul devoted himself exclusively to preaching, testifying to the Jews that Jesus was the Messiah." So he was not working, he was focusing exclusively on preaching, reaching out. And the implication is, and it was almost definitely certain, that the others were working and supporting him. They lived together and they got the food, they paid the rent, whatever the expenses were, they provided so that Paul could use his gift and preach and reach the Jews and the Gentiles that were there. So we see Paul did both. When necessary, when he needed to, he made tents or repaired tents and made money to support himself and probably the team that he had. When the team was able to work, they encouraged Paul to devote himself full time to preaching. So here is what is the biblical way to think of money for ministry. It's not money for ministry. It starts with ministry. Ministry is everyone's call. When you're called to follow Jesus, you are called to be a minister. You are called to serve. And we each have been given spiritual gifts by God. And we are to serve using our spiritual gifts. As a body of Christ together, we all use our spiritual gifts to build God's kingdom. In Romans 12 verse 8, Paul says, if your gift is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is to give, then give generously. If it is to lead, then do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. So in other words, whatever gift you have, your call is to use that gift to build God's kingdom, to build His kingdom. It doesn't matter if you're paid or you're not paid. It doesn't matter where you are. Wherever Paul went, he knew what to do. Use his gifts to build God's kingdom. Whether Paul was paid or not paid, he knew what to do. Use his gifts to build God's kingdom. Now, I'm blessed to be paid a salary for being a pastor, for preaching, for leading. And so I focus full time on that. But I don't depend on my salary in the sense that if I don't receive a salary, I will stop doing what I'm doing. I do my calling first, no matter what happens, no matter what salary I get, or no salary, or a good salary. It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant to everything. I do what God has called me to do. At times, God will bless you by providing for you so you don't have to work. At other times, you will have to work. I have done that in the past for many years. The temptation is to see ministry as a paid position. It's a temptation for every pastor. And you have to be super aware of the temptation of money. It comes in subtly. Satan will use it against you. And I myself, I honor those pastors who work outside of the church and support themselves. And I honor those who, with integrity, receive a salary and minister, not because they receive a salary, but because they've been called by God. So you are called by God. Maybe some of you are called to be a pastor. Maybe some of you are called to be a missionary. Maybe some of you are called to give encouragement to others, to pray, to give, to lead, to teach. Whatever you're called, do it for the glory of God. Don't worry about a salary or who's going to provide for you. God will provide. Sometimes He'll use other people, and sometimes He'll use your own hands. So God bless you. Serve the Lord. Give Him glory in everything you do. And tomorrow I'll see you on Facebook Live. Take care.